Welcome to day 4 of the Briamar Sew Along. Today we are going to be working on our lining and the main zipper. So right now I have out my 2 lining pieces. You can see my notches are at the bottom, and I have just put these right sides together. I've lined them up so they match on all sides. I also made 2 marks. I made a mark 1 inch down from the top, and I made a mark 1 inch up from the bottom. Now I'm going to sew my lining together with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to start here at the top, sew here. I'm going to back stitch and then break my stitches. Come down here, start again, back stitch, and then break my back stitch, and then sew here and then break my stitches. Then I'll sew all along the bottom, back stitching both times, and then sew up my side. All of this will be done, like I said, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. We will not be sewing on our notched corners. This will be for when we box our corners after we get finished. So let's get started with this. Now that I have this all stitched together, what I'm going to do now is open up my seams. I'm going to start right here with this unsewn part, and you can see I'm just finger pressing this. If you wanted, you could take it over the iron, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do this on all 3 sides, just to have everything opened up. This will just help everything lay better once we have them all assembled. Okay, now that we have this, our lining is almost done. We've just got to box our corners. So I'll just stick my finger in there, open that up, take the bottom, open it up, and match these 2 seams together. I'm sure you've done this so many times. And I'm having issues. There we go. Okay, now I'm actually going to sew this seam at a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance, and then I will trim that down to 1/8 of an inch once I'm done. Repeat that for the other side. And just trim that down. Okay, lining is done. Now I'm going to pull with our main zipper. Now if you remembered in our pre-sew along video, I explained that we would need one side of a 28-inch zipper. So I just separated mine. If you don't remember how I did it, you just pull it apart. You can see that in that beginning video, but really there's no tricks. If yours has a stop, as long as it is a nylon zipper, and most are, you just cut the stop off to be able to separate it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to now add the pull to this zipper tape. I want to make sure that I have it nice and smooth all the way down and that these sides match up. Okay, so there's no kinks, no twists, everything looks neat. We are going to attach this just like we did on day 1. Take my zipper pull, put one side in, put the other side in, get them even. Look from the bottom, push up, hear that click. Wrap it around one finger and then pull. And now we will check to make sure that we don't have any twists or kinks and we have that beautiful rounded edge. Your favorite part of this zipper. I love this. Okay, so now that we have this, we are going to, at this end, I already made a little mark, but you're going to make a mark. You can zip it up all the way if you wanted to. And that's going to help you to make just a little center mark right here on our zipper tape. Okay. So now what we're going to do, that we got that, is we're going to pull back out our exterior. Now I went ahead and threw some garbage in mine, sorry. I went ahead and put mine inside out. So if you don't have yours this way, go ahead and flip it this way. I'm going to do mine just a slight bit different than what she says, but it's the same pretty much thing, just an extra step or two, just for my comfort level. So the first thing she tells me to do is she tells me to make a center marking right here on this side opposite of the one with the rivet stabilizer. We're not doing that side, opposite. So I'll make that center mark right there, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my zipper, we'll go ahead and open this up and drop it in your bag. With my teeth down, I'm going to put right sides together with my exterior. So the right sides will be touching. I'm going to match up that center mark right there. Let's go ahead and put a clip right there. And then I'm just going to clip that top edge all the way around. Okay, now when we're over to this edge, I made 2 marks. She wants us to leave about 1 inch or so of gap right here. This is going to be where we're going to push our zipper and deal with our rivets and all this stuff at the end. What I like to do is I like to sew just beyond this seam allowance here to tack it down and kind of go back and forth here a little bit on both sides. And that kind of stabilizes that so I don't have that being too floppy, but I still have a really nice window to work with. You can close that up a little bit more if you wanted and do a 1/2 inch. I mean, like, make it a little bit smaller so it's no more than 1 inch. But what I'm going to do is continue clipping until I get to that spot, and that's where I'm going to stop clipping. And then this is where I'm going to deviate just a slight bit. I'm going to baste this zipper down first before I add my lining. The pattern just says go ahead and put your lining in there and sew them all. I am not a skilled sewist. I'll go ahead and admit that. So having 3 layers of shifting on a curve just isn't best for me and my sewing game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing here and I'm going to sew all the way around in a complete loop. She does tell you in the pattern to start sewing, sew one side here, start sewing, sew one side here. Now I have not had any trouble. I've sewn all of mine, just the complete loop, and not had any trouble. But just for clarity's sake, as she has designed this pattern, she has more knowledge than me. She does recommend that. So definitely you can do that and probably have a better bag than I am. But I am just going to go all the way around. I'm just going to do 1/8 of an inch just to stabilize this. And also, since I have a flatbed, I sew this way. I flatten my bag out, put everything in there. Oh, and I just got my thread out. Let me fix that up real quick. But on a flatbed, it's sometimes easier to do your stitching from the wrong side. So you can see I'm flattening that out, putting it in there, and just going to start. My bag's sticking just a little. Now, when I'm coming to this curve, I'm just going to lift my entire assembly up, flatten it out, so I can keep sewing straight. We always want to try to straighten out those curves when we can to help make the sewing stay smooth. Rolling it around. We're coming up to my stopping point. I want to make sure I do not go too far past my marks. I can see my seam already, so I know I'm pretty good. Got that. Okay, so now let's pick back up where the pattern says. And just so you can see, I have my zipper tucked down in there. Okay, so now, let me look at my pattern here. I'm going to tuck the lining into the exterior and have them right sides together. I'm going to flip this out. First thing I gotta do. And my opening, my turning hole, it is actually going to be on the same side where I'm going to put my rivet, where my extra zipper is, or my rivet stabilizer is. That's where my turning hole is going to be. So I'm going to tuck that in there. I'm going to go ahead and start attaching my seam. So my seam is going to be on my center mark right there. Let's do that first. Put a clip there. Let's go over to our other seam. Our other seam is going to be for this center mark right there. And then I'm just going to clip around the rest of this bag. You see, I got my seam down. That was not, I shouldn't have done that. I should have been more careful with that. That should be up straight. It's not going to hurt the bag. It's just not pretty. Okay, you can see that lining's fitting beautifully. Now, I've got this all tucked in. Again, I'm going to start and stop right here. And what am I sewing this with this time? I am doing 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And of course, I'm going to start here, go all the way around, stop here. The pattern has you start in the middle, one side, your choice on that. But now you do need to make sure you do your 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You do not want to mess that up. You should be sewing right against your teeth. I'm feeling my teeth. I'm making sure everything's staying in line here. Keep my fingers on my teeth the entire time, just so I always know where they're at, and that I'm not stitching over them, but I'm right up against them. Flatten my bag out. I'm coming up against that seam again. And almost. No. I'm going to break my stitches right here. And I'm just going to check my seam to make sure that's perfect. Perfect. Okay, so what I want to do, let me see, does she want us to trim this down? Stop it here. Do not trim your seam allowance, she says, and I trust her. So we are not trimming our seam allowance. We are going to reach into our turning hole. Use your thumb. Start by poking in that corner, pushing it through. I'm the worst, like I said, with turning a bag. It gets turned, but it's very awkward. We are going to stop at this point. We are not going to go any further today. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and do one more thing actually. Let's go ahead and push down. What we want to do is we want to get this seam kind of tucked in. So let's do that real quick. Let's pull out some double-sided tape, just so that can be sitting while we're not working at it. And this is a little tricky, but my bag's already doing it, so it's kind of hard to see, but we're wanting to make sure that both our exterior and our lining, the raw edges are tucked in. And I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape on both the raw edge of both of these, the exterior and the lining, and tuck them to themselves. So let's see if I can show. It's a little tricky to show. Okay, here we go. So you see this exterior? I'm going to put a layer of double-sided tape and just fold that down. So from that gap, that hole, it looks finished. And I'm going to do the same thing with my lining. And then that's where we will stop, I do believe. She says I think about a half of an inch. Turn it down about a half of an inch. I'm just eyeballing that. I know that this line that I drew earlier was 1/4 of an inch, so that's a pretty good spot for me to measure that. And it's kind of, honestly, it's wanting to do that already. So I'm just going to fold on that line there and use that double-sided tape to kind of hold that in place. Now, which, like I said, mine was doing it already. I know it's hard to stop here because you just want to go ahead and finish. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a clip right here with these two, and that'll kind of give the vinyl some memory to stay in that place. So I'm going to do that. We're going to leave it here for now, and then tomorrow we will actually finish our bag and have everything done. Thank you so much again for sewing with me, and I will see you tomorrow for the completion, and post this picture in the comments in our event group. Thanks.